That's to set the scene. Now you'll be hearing from a handful of workers from across the system, and I'd like to first introduce Wendy Grasha. Wendy works as a clerk 4 at UMass Dartmouth, where she also serves as a steward for her AFSCME Council 93 local number 507. Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you, Annetta. Approximately 8 years ago, when I became tired of being just a number, I left the job in the private corporate sector for a job in public service. While the clerical work I do is similar in nature, I made this transition in the hopes of doing a job that had a higher purpose and a higher reward, so I chose higher ed. In the 8 years that I've been working at UMass Dartmouth, it has been disheartening to see the university follow the same trajectory as the greedy corporation I previously worked for. In the pursuit of saving costs and increasing revenue, I've witnessed the following changes and impacts. Ceasing participation and sponsorship in community events and partnerships has led to a steady disconnection from the local community. Under the guise of streamlining processes, there has been downsizing and consolidating of departments and educational programs. Switching to less expensive software licensing programs that are also less user-friendly causes delays, errors in previously simple tasks to become tedious and less efficient. Outsourcing some work to new non-union departments while dumping other work on remaining union staff. Here's an example of my own experience with that. Although my job description outlines many duties that are transferable to similar job titles in other departments, it does specify that I work for one department. However, even prior to COVID, I was already doing some of those tasks on the behalf of HR, grad studies, student employment, and the finance department. How do I know that? Because one of the tasks is something I did when I actually worked in grad studies as part of my first job at UMass Dartmouth. And I'm not in that department anymore. Stripping us of our resources, such as workable internal programs and access to knowledgeable union staff who are invested in their jobs like we are, creates roadblocks to completing tasks when we cannot reach someone to help us because they do not answer their phones, respond to emails, and cannot be approached in person because they are in Shrewsbury and not in another building on campus. Impedes our ability to perform our jobs well, sometimes rendering unfair job evaluations. Cannot service our students or support our faculty in a timely or effective manner, and is overall a disservice to our students, and we are then blamed for low retention and enrollment, overloading us with work, causing stress, and lowering morale. To add insult to injury, they tell us funding is short, while in the same sentence issuing demands that we increase student retention and enrollment. Meanwhile, enrollment in the graduate program I work in, STEM education and teacher development, is actually higher now than it was at this point last year. I know that some programs are struggling, but not all of them are. And blanket statements like that, that's what they're meant to imply. Union busting was happening long before COVID, but the university has been using the pandemic as an excuse to further advance this agenda and exploit its union workers. These actions have a campus-wide domino effect. When we are short facilities crew, the grounds and buildings where students live and attend classes and where we all work fall into states of disrepair. Those repairs become more expensive and cause unacceptable work conditions and severe delays in service to everyone on campus. When the administrative staff is short, we cannot provide services to the students or support the faculty in a timely fashion. When faculty is short, they're not able to give students the full time and attention they need with their academics. It all comes down to the students who are our customers, and they are deeply impacted by the things that are happening to us. It is inarguable that we are the boots on the ground. We are the folks responsible for the successful daily operations of this campus. We are the face-to-face interactions with students, parents, and the public. Out of our dedication to the longevity and success of this university, we also made many other sacrifices, including giving up portions of our pay, taking 2 voluntary furloughs, taking voluntary separation packages, and accepting temporary transfers, which have resulted in long-term dual positions for many of us. We are invested, not just professionally, but personally in the success and longevity of this university. We are the heart and soul of the UMass Dartmouth ship, and as such, we feel that we should be included in the process of the screening and selection of the next captain of this ship. Over the last 8 years, I have watched chancellors come and go. We need to stop the revolving door of chancellors and find one that is as invested in this university and community as we are. Who better to achieve that endeavor than those who care the most? Well, the decision makers don't see it that way. So we have been excluded once again from the process. For the last decade, we have watched the gradual disconnection from the community transpire in the form of union busting, cost cutting, outsourcing, department consolidations, contracting, and exploitation of staff and students, all in the pursuit of profits. expecting us to do more with less. This practice has got to stop. While UMass Dartmouth is an economic driver in the region, it can no longer be run like a greedy business, prioritizing revenue over relatability. It is supposed to provide a service to the public, not serve itself. The union employees here on campus want to reestablish the bonds with the community that have been lost, and we feel that will start with the selection of the next chancellor. We are asking for seats at the table for that selection process where we rightfully belong. We ask that the university system as a whole brings back staff and fills vacancy left by those who took voluntary separations. And lastly, in the light of all the sacrifices we have made to save this university, we ask that they collectively bargain our respective contracts in good faith and treat us with the respect and dignity we deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. And thanks for unpacking for us the reality of what quote unquote efficiencies actually mean on the ground and the negative impacts they're having on students and workers and our communities. Next, I'd like to introduce Nick Gula, the electrician supervisor, who also works at UMass Dartmouth, where he is the president of AFT Maintainers Local 6350. Nick, please unmute yourself.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming here today to listen to all the panelists speaking. I would like to give a little brief history on what the university has done, because the narrative is that this is all due to the pandemic, which is a lie. This has been I've been working here at UMass Dartmouth for 17 years. And all 17 years that I've been here, they have been doing the same thing, not hiring anybody to fill the position. So what they do is when somebody leaves or somebody, retires, they never fill this position. They never fill the position that is needed. Then 5 years later, if we're lucky, they might fill 2 or 3 positions in that field, or even out of that field, and actually use that to say, no, now this is your duties as such. A little brief history about that. I pose a question to everyone. I know you can't speak upon it, but I'm going to say this. UMass Dartmouth is a concrete buildings. So would you think that they have a maintenance a masonry department at UMass Dartmouth? The answer would be no. They have not filled a mason position on this campus for the last 10 years. And being an all brick and mortar buildings, that is a travesty, because we cannot fix that without a mason. Another example of this is they have one painter. How can you, with 32 buildings and one painter, be able to paint, fix all the holes, and do all the painting that needs to be done on this campus with one painter? You can't. One plumber. We have one plumber on the campus of UMass Dartmouth. They have not filled the 5 that is needed. There is one plumber on this campus. You cannot do the plumbing work on this campus with one plumber. It's impossible. In my department, electrical, they have not filled 2 positions. I do have more than others, so I'll say that that's a good thing, but they've given us more work. So they've added appliances to my job. They've added lighting controls, building maintenance systems. With the people that I have, there is no way that we can keep up on that work. In short, they do not hire what they need to hire. They hire more upper management and continue to hire them at $200,000 a year, which, by the way, would probably give me 8 full-time personnel to do the work that we need with one position. We cannot be top heavy with $500 million worth of deferred maintenance on this campus and expect that all to be done within 3 months that they give us to do the work that we're doing. Again, I would like to speak on something else that might be able to alleviate this problem within the state of Massachusetts, and it's called the Fair Share Amendment. What is the Fair Share Amendment? Well, I'm going to tell you. It is a constitutional amendment that would increase the taxes on incomes over 1 million by 4% points, essentially 4 cents per dollar on every dollar over $1 million. The revenue raised from the Fair Share Amendment is dedicated towards transportation and public education, meaning we can hire more people, not push things off to another day, get things done, hire more people, and do what we need to do for the students, for the community. And I thank you for listening to me today. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Thanks for reminding us and laying out for us just what it means to disinvest in our campuses and what the price we really pay for that is, and for reminding us that there's solutions to these problems. We can reverse some of the decisions that have been made in the Commonwealth and make our taxes fairer so we can actually pay for the public services we need. Thank you for that. Next, we're going to hear from Jurisa Rodriguez, the administrative assistant in the business department for the UMass Boston College of Nursing and Health Sciences. Jurisa is also a member of the classified staff union of the Mass Teachers Association there. Jurisa, please unmute yourself.
Hello. So as Anita said, I'm from UMass Boston's College of Nursing and Health Sciences. And one of the things that we really have tried to focus on is being student-centered, putting students first. It's a model that the university has adopted, along with being a university that's research-oriented. One of the things that's been happening on our campus has been the same thing that's been happening across all the other campuses, and that you've heard in the previous two panelists. Our university has been gutted. A lot of the staff have taken the same similar packages, have left, have moved on to other positions. And what the pandemic has allowed with the furloughing was that a lot of people needed to find other jobs because they needed to find any type of employment to help support their families. What has been happening with our campus is now we have a lot of positions that are empty, that are not being filled. And in the spirit of making sure that we're still student-centered, that we're providing the necessary services, these job tasks have been redistributed to other individuals to help pick up the slack. What tends to happen is once it's redistributed and these positions stay empty and they stay open, they become part of your job tasks. So now your job description keeps growing as we all have that little line at the end that says in any other job duties as needed or as assigned. And so what tends to happen is we're straining the few resources that we do have remaining in our colleges. We are straining the resources of the staff, of the faculty, of the NTTs that we currently have to assist in the areas where we're feeling the most need to make sure that the students are receiving the services that they need. But at the end of the day, what justice are we truly doing for the students if the services aren't of the highest caliber because we're short-staffed, because people are being pulled in multiple different directions, because we have staff that are burning out because they're feeling so overwhelmed because they have to take on so much more. In order to truly invest in our students and to grow as a college, as a campus, as a system, we need to invest where it counts. We need to invest in the staff. We need to invest in the faculty because all of our jobs are intertwined. In order for us to provide that service that we need for the students so they have the full college experience, we need to have the resources available to them. And that's not happening right now. We have positions on our campus that have been open for long periods of time, and that now with the furlough and people have moved on, the number of vacancies have grown. even with people coming back from furlough, we're still shorthanded. And now, as we're transitioning in preparation to reopen our university, the limited resources that we have are going to be more strained because we're all going to be doing a lot of things at the same time with very little notice. So one of the things that we need to really focus on is if we really truly want to provide the best quality of services to the students, the best experience for the students, we need to invest in the people that are bringing those services and that experience. And that's the staff, and that's the faculty, that's our facility workers, because at the end of the day, we're all intertwined, and it's impossible for us to be able to navigate and grow and move forward without having that initial investment. It's not just a campus specific, it's not just a college specific, it's a system issue, and it needs to be addressed at the bigger level, so that we can start doing our jobs that we were hired for. And we can make sure that the students who are paying for this education are receiving the full experience that they're paying and expecting from us.
Thank you, Jurisa. Thank you for making it really real about what the impacts of doing education on the cheap are, both for all of us as workers and for our students. Next, we'd like to hear from Daniel Santos, who's the Property Management Administrator at UMass Boston's Controller's Office, and also a member of the Classified Staff Union. Daniel, please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Annetta. First, let me thank everyone who's taken the time to join us today. It's good to see everybody concerned and taking part. I speak to the interconnectedness disconnect between departments. Property is a behind the scenes part of the university. We do not have any direct student involvement. We more or less are on the operational side. And the university's refusal to bring back staff has greatly affected the operations of the property department. We rely on the communication between staff of a particular department to help address any and all equipment questions and/or issues that arise. However, due to current staffing levels, that is impossible. We have staff members who are covering multiple departments and don't have any knowledge of the departments in question where they do not necessarily work. It is inefficient, wasteful use of time and energy. My concerns are the longer we continue understaffing, the worse our problems are going to get. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. And thank you for making visible all the invisible workers like yourself who really make this the university run across all of our campuses. Finally, we'll hear from Donna Vanash, a clerk at the Social Thought and Political Economy program at UMass Amherst, where she also serves as treasurer for the University Staff Association, a local within the Massachusetts Teachers Association. Donna, please unmute yourself.
I'm Donna Vanash, a clerk in the Social Thought and Political Economy program at UMass Amherst, and the treasurer for the University Staff Association. USA is the union that represents clerical and technical workers. During the pandemic, our union membership decreased by nearly 100 members when the university offered individuals up to $25,000 to voluntarily leave their jobs. The work of those members did not go away. The university has not refilled most of those positions, and that has substantially increased the workload of others. Departments have not hired permanent replacement staff, but have continued to hire temporary, non-benefited workers to do USA work. Many of the temporary workers are folks who accepted a large chunk of money to separate from the university. Last October, nearly 100 of our members were put on indefinite furlough or had their hours substantially reduced. To date, 30% of those members have not been recalled. While some members were kept on furlough, we know of departments that hired student workers or temporary workers to perform unit work. I've spoken with a member who, once recalled, was not even able to keep up with the additional duties that were added to the workload because of the necessity of keeping students safe during the pandemic. Previous requests to increase staff had fallen on deaf ears, And now, due to the increased amount of stress, in addition to the excessive workload, that particular member will retire. The department will have to hire additional staff to do the work of this one very dedicated and competent staff member. It's shameful that departments haven't used available funding for full staffing and continue to take advantage of those who go above and beyond. UMass needs to bring staff back and use a portion of the federal aid allotted to UMass to refill all those vacant positions. UMass is weakening the voice of workers by unlawfully moving work out of our union and creating low morale by demanding unreasonable workloads. I'd like to take a moment to speak about the hiring practices at UMass Amherst regarding USA positions. Despite repeated efforts to address the problem, UMass has persistently violated its contract with the University Staff Association by failing to properly post job openings in a manner that encourages career advancement for those who already work on campus. More than 70% of job openings have gone to outside applicants, sending a message that loyalty and commitment to the public higher education mission are not valued at UMass Amherst. To recap, our workforce has been substantially reduced by the voluntary separation and the mandatory furloughs. Our members have often been overlooked in the interview process when applying for a promotion, and the employer has continued to hire temporary workers to do union work. The workload on staff has increased while the resources in departments has been reduced. We need full staffing to do our jobs, and our members deserve to be treated with dignity and respect in hiring decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you all for sharing just a handful of the stories of what's happening on our campuses. As we head towards commencement on our campuses, we want to congratulate our graduating students. We're proud of everything you've done to get to this point. It's been an extremely difficult year for everyone, and your accomplishments as students during this time are all the more remarkable for it. However, we cannot say that we are proud of UMass. As you've heard today, the UMass system is failing its staff and students and failing to prioritize its responsibilities as a public institution. So this is an appropriate time to call for an investment commencement, as federal aid allotted the UMass system for institutional spending since the start of the pandemic has topped $140 million. Some of that money must be used to restore the full-time positions that were cut over the past year. As you've heard today, student services are suffering, workloads are growing unmanageable, and one of the state's largest employers is shedding jobs just as our communities are trying to rebound from the pandemic. There are no excuses for UMass to be failing its students, workers, and communities this way. It's time to bring staff back. We're happy to take any questions from the press who are attending our press conference today. If you do have a question for us, please type them in the Q&A part of Zoom. If you look at the bottom of your screen over to the right, there should be a little icon that says Q&A. And if you post your questions there, we'll all be able to field them. So we have a question that's come in from Chris Van Buskirk. And Chris, I don't know if you're from the media or if you're an employee or anything in the UMass system. You've asked about which federal aid packages have been allotted to UMass, how much, and are there any stipulations or guidelines around spending that money? There have been a series of 3 aid packages, all of which that have come out of the federal government have had money for public higher education institutions, and UMass has gotten a significant portion of that. A piece of each of those packages have been required to go to students. The statistics that we quoted, and we can get you a more detailed breakdown, was that over 140 million of that money is not earmarked for students, and the university is free to use it for revenue stabilization, and staffing stabilization. But so far they have not chosen to do that. But we will follow up with you and get you more details on those different packages. If anybody else has questions, please post them in the Q&A.
And I don't think there's another question in the Q&A. It was up at 2:18.
So yeah, there was a question in the Q&A from one of our members around the vaccination process, and this isn't really the venue to deal with that, since this is aimed at press and funding. So thanks, Nick. I was just going to skip that one. Any other questions from the press? Well, we know everybody's time is tight, and we all spend more time on Zoom than we want to. So we thank you all for coming and joining us today. We hope that this press conference and hearing some stories directly from the staff on our campuses has made real for you just how much of a crisis our university system is in. And hopefully we've also made real for you that there are some clear solutions to these crises, both in terms of the monies that have already been made available to the Commonwealth, and as Nick pointed out, changes that we need to put in place in this Commonwealth so we can fully fund public higher education and provide the education our students deserve, and provide good family-sustaining, community-sustaining jobs that all of our communities deserve across the Commonwealth. Thank you all for coming. Janice, can you stop the recording? Or Scott?
Where'd she go?
We just leave.
I don't know. I guess we could just leave. Scott, can you stop the recording? All right, folks, we still have a little bit of an audience, so but maybe we should just go and we can debrief and check and touch in via email. Is that all right?
Yeah, Miles says log out.
Okay, I just want to make sure that the chat was captured. Anyway, all right. Bye all. Good job.
Everyone.
Next time we have to plan how to end.
Yeah.